Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
Kenny Boucher here, The Long War. Joined tonight by my dear friends and partners in crime, Mike Haspil and Wyatt Turk. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Yo, guys, we've already done a lot tonight. Gone places on this journey. We did a hobby AMA. We did it at the beginning of the show. We're going to splice it in at the end of the show. Anybody who missed this show live, just so you know, we do it every week, Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. But we got lots to talk about, so I'm going to stop talking and let Wyatt and Haspil talk about it.
Well, we gotta do a would you rather first. That's top priority. I mean, like 90% of our audience comes here just for that. Would you rather restart your life at 10 years old with all the knowledge you have now, or skip ahead to age 60 with $50 million in the bank?
See,
I was going to say 50, but I know Mike is too close.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll go 50. That's just 2 years.
Mike, well, you're not 50, are you? Wyatt, Mike's not 50, is he?
Oh my God, Mike is 50. Well, he likes Team Yankee and bolt action, so I mean, like, the checks out.
Yeah.
But by that logic, I'm also 50.
You know, that's a good one. I've actually put a lot of thought into that over the course of my life. I would just jump to 50 with money. Because even if I knew what I knew now, I have to go back in time and do all that fucking work again. There's no fucking way I'd stay motivated. I'm barely able to keep this shit going now. Back when I was hungry back in the day, man, I was busting. I know it now, but I still have to fucking do it. Nah, man, I can't do it twice. It's too much.
There's
I
actually
have to ask the genie a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go back to being 10, am I 10 years old now, or am I back when I was 10?
When you were 10, like quantum leap rules.
So I go back in time.
Yes.
Oh, hell yeah. I'm going back to when I was 10.
Yeah. I mean, there's a clear Back to the Future loophole in this situation. I'm just wondering if anybody will figure it out.
Do I get to?
Yeah. Cause here's my thing, right? If I go back to when I was 10 and there are certain life paths I wouldn't take. And I could make sure I could get a loan out and invest in like Amazon and Microsoft and Apple and stuff like that. And I'd have way more than $50 million.
Yeah.
Way, way more.
So I think it's part of it. It's like Biff Tannen going back with that sports almanac, right? Like, I mean, I'm no sports expert, but I feel like I could remember like maybe who won a big fight or like who won a Super Bowl one time.
I mean, stocks is the obvious choice. You literally just get a 9-to-5 shit job.
I don't know anything about stocks.
You just you know Apple, you know Google.
Well,
you know
when
Disney.
I was 10 years old, Apple was already like a massive publicly traded company.
You talk your dad into fucking doing it.
But that's why he's screwed because he's younger.
He's too young. Yeah.
See, like my life would be that College Humor sketch where like you go back and then like you're in that conundrum of like, do I warn people about 9/11 and be like the crazy person?
Mm-hmm.
But like morally, you're kind of obligated to try at the very least.
So yeah, that is a very interesting dilemma that you pose because it's the Steve Rogers dilemma from the end of Endgame, right? You go back, you get to hook up with Peggy Carter, but you know that S.H.I.E.L.D. is being run by Hydra and you can't change.
That's not how time travel works. They literally explain that in the film.
Okay.
It's an alternate time stream.
Okay. So you can't tell anyone about 9/11 or, a bunch of other horrible stuff. I tell about 9/11. I'm pretty sure I could like convince some religious fundamentalists that I was a 10-year-old prophet from God. They're pretty dumb.
Yeah, this is Genie rules, by the way. So
yeah, this is Genie rules. So it's.
And he also said quantum leap rules. So like we don't know what the Genie's got in store for us, but like you've kind of talked me into going back to being 10 because I think I wouldn't have to do it all over again. I'll go back to 10 years old I would know that all I'm going to do is get a fucking simple job.
Oh,
but I'm 14.
Now that you say that,
just dump all my money into the relevant stocks and then just.
There's a Star Trek Next Generation moral quandary that might happen to you if Mike knows what episode I'm referencing. It's a Q episode.
Oh, yes.
That doesn't help me though, because every time I saw the Q moral quandaries, I would have totally done it.
So it's the episode where Picard gets shot in the chest.
Yes.
And he has an artificial heart.
From the Nausicaan.
Nausicaan. And so right. Q takes him back to being his 21-year-old self, and he believes that if he is like his older self and acts the same way, that he won't get in that fight and thus won't get stabbed in the heart, thus he won't have an artificial heart. But what ends up happening is that like because he wasn't bold and brash and took risks, he was never made captain. And so like when he gets back to his current year self, he's on the Enterprise, but he's like a lieutenant junior grade and he's like in his 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what would happen to me because I wouldn't be too late. But now that I know I can just exploit the Biff Buchanan code here and just dump my entire pay. I'll live with my parents till I'm 30, dump 100% of my money into relevant places, and then at 30, be a billionaire. Got it. I'm not going to be the captain of the Enterprise anymore, but I'll be rich AF.
Yep. I will be probably rich and evil.
Yeah.
Because I will do things like like go talk to George Lucas and be like, no, dude, everyone's going to be all about Jar Jar. You need to put more Jar Jar in this movie.
Oh, why would you?
Some people just want to see the world burn. Okay?
I know, right? It's like Mike is going to found Facebook, so we still live in this fucking dystopia.
Total dystopia. And then instead, I have this great idea for a book called Harry Potter. You know what? I'm going to write Twilight.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my God, dude. It's a good one. You talked me back into it, guys. Like, thought I had this one figured out, but by using good old John Luck Pickard's rule, using quantum leap knowledge and Biff Buchanan, like I think I would actually go back 10 because I'm okay being a bitch boy science officer on the Star Trek, but being up by my own Starfleet financially.
Somebody's asking what I would do. I'd probably go back. Of course, I have way more reason to than these guys.
True.
Yeah, way to make it not funny.
Genie.
Classic Genie move right there.
All right, let me saunter on over to the Rob Baer Memorial News Desk. Let's do some hobby market watch. Mm-hmm. Got some pre-orders. Pre-orders happening. The new 40k starter set, the triple tier of Command, Elite, and Recruit edition is going up. Command edition is going to be $165. The Elite edition is going to be $99, and the Recruit is going to be $50. There's also going to be a Get Started Battle Zone for $90.
Whoa! Can you clarify what that is?
The Battle Zone, I think, is a terrain set.
Oh, okay. Like what they did with like Kill Team.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's like some terrain and like a cardboard
like a mat type thing. Yeah. Okay.
There's going to be a couple of starter sets. We got a 40k paints and tools for $45. And it's just listed at $45, even for like Canadian and all that kind of stuff. Looks like there's going to be a couple of themed paint sets for the Space Marines and Necrons, and those are going to be $35 each.
Nice.
A couple of books. We got Dawn of Fire, Avenging Sun in paperback for $16, and Cal Jericho, Sinner's Bounty in paperback for $16.
Mm-hmm.
We also got some news. New Blood Bowl. New season of Blood Bowl. Very exciting. You guys know how much I'm a fan of Blood Bowl, and we're getting a new Blood Bowl second season edition with looks like orcs and humans again, based on the box art. But the human side is so a different team. It's like the Nobles team, and you actually get a star player in there with Griff Griff Vanderwald or something, Griff Oberwald, which is pretty cool because he didn't get a star player in the last thing. So they've only showed off the human team, which is the nobles, and the models are amazing and ridiculous as Blood Bowl should be. There's like some cool guys. There's like some old guys with pipes, which is always fun. And there's like some fat guys where their like guts are hanging out from under their armor, which is pretty hilarious. Pretty cool. And so more to come in the future. I hope the orcs get a new team. That would be dope.
That the sports ball game we're talking about?
Oh my God, yes. But it's like sports ball, but also WWE with a little bit of murder.
XFL, we had that already.
Yeah, so it's like fantasy.
Actually, we didn't. XFL was horrible. I thought for sure it was going to be dudes suplexing dudes on the football field, and it was just like second tier football players playing football. But
they got to put really funny names on their jerseys, which is cool, I guess. But yeah, so new Blood Bowl. That's pretty exciting. Other than that, not too much happening in the release cycle, except maybe some Black Library stuff, Mike?
Yeah, there's Black Library is launching a new line called Warhammer Crime. And this was intended, the way I understand it, is it was supposed to come out back in June. But because of the Rona, it got pushed back. So there you have like an audio adventure. There is the debut novel coming out for that. And regrettably, I don't have the name of it. It's Warhammer Crime. And so it's about cops and crime lords and all this stuff, all going down amidst the background of, the grim darkness of the far future. So, it sounds really cool. I'm excited for it, and I've already picked up the audiobook, so I'm going to just sort it out and figure out. I'm trying to look up the name. The first book is called Bloodlines. It is by Chris Raitt, and there's an audio adventure called Drudge Runners that is about an hour long. Available on Audible, since we were talking about that earlier, which if you're listening to it in chronological order, like a non-Dr. Manhattan hobo, that'll be coming up later.
Time is meaningless here.
Time is meaningless. Yeah. And then the other thing that I think is actually pretty cool is you were telling me that Necromunda game by Focus Interactive that I've been hyped for is actually coming out like September 3rd.
Yeah. So on the video game front, Necromunda is coming out September 8th.
Oh, 8th. Okay.
Yeah. That was announced earlier today, actually. And then Blood Bowl 3 was announced. No date as of yet, but
I just bought Blood Bowl 2 on the last sale.
I mean, it's still functioning.
It still plays, and I'll buy Blood Bowl 3.
I'll be honest, like I'm super hyped for it because at least with Blood Bowl 2, that video game is a 1-to-1 representation of the rules of the tabletop game, which is great, especially now because like it's really hard to get your game nights in and stuff like that. So like it's probably going to stay on sale for a while. The game was announced, so it could be an indeterminate amount of time. It could be a while. Yeah, it could be like a year before we get it. So I mean, if you like Blood Bowl or you just want to get into it, get the Steam game, and then like if you like it, then get a team. Get a plastic team. But like if you're like many people who are kind of stuck inside with no gaming happening whatsoever, Blood Bowl 2 is a great way to do that because it is very much the tabletop game, but with sick animations and announcers, and
the announcers are really very impressive. Because I bought it and I'm playing through like the first tutorial games, where it's like it's working you through it, but the announcers like never stop. And I was just like, wow, this is really incredible. It's really, and especially like if you're just like sitting down trying to figure out what you're going to do because you don't know how to play the game, they'll just start cracking on you. They'll be like, wow, this is really boring. Or we're watching.
Yeah. Jim and Bob are great.
So it's really, really good. And then in like the fan film sector, there is, try not to gasp, a Tau fan film coming out. Very cool.
Oh, you're talking about Exodite?
Exodite.
Yeah, I don't know if Exodite is Tau centric, because that's like the second teaser they've put out, and we've seen, I think, a Space Wolf.
Yeah, we saw. Yeah, in the first one.
It seems like this is going to be like a your typical epic 40k story of like a battle space. So it might be Space Wolves versus Tau, which would be interesting. What's
crazy is the title though, the Exodite. That's Eldar. Yeah. So I'm very pumped for it. And what got me psyched on this teaser too, go check it out if you haven't seen it, is the entire teaser is done in the Tau language, and the people that did it, it sounds perfectly organic. It just rolls right off their tongues. I was like, this is really, really cool.
Well, you mean it wasn't Klingon? I thought it was Klingon.
It was not Klingon.
It sounds very much like Klingon.
Okay, real talk though, Haspil, how much Klingon do you know?
I used to know a lot. Now I know a couple phrases that are mostly from the movies. That's all I remember.
So you could visit Planet Klingon, their homeworld and capital, and be a tourist.
Let me put it to you this way. When I went back when they had the Star Trek experience in Vegas, and when you met the Klingons there, they were Klingons. So I went and just greeted them in Klingon, Nuknek, which means, what do you want? And it was pretty cool. The guy just didn't miss a beat, answered me in Klingon. I was just like, this is all right. And that was a lot of fun, because I was like, I got a steak at Quark's, and then we were drinking something called like a warp core breach that was literally a fishbowl full of alcohol with like 4 straws coming out of it.
That sounds dope.
I miss that place, man. That was one of the coolest things in Vegas. It was really neat.
I was super jealous because like I was still a kid and my parents went to Vegas and they went to that. And then by the time I was old enough to go to Vegas, like it had already come and gone. And so I was like super upset that I never got to do that.
Yeah, it was really, really cool.
Hey, when you go back in time, you can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah.
I hope in my heart of hearts that that's what Galaxy's Edge is like. But I don't know.
Yeah, it's similar. Like they don't speak like a different language. They speak basic.
Yeah.
So like, but it is very much like that.
One of the craziest things I saw there, and this is a tangent, it's off topic, but one of the craziest things I saw is I just told my wife, we were staying in the Hilton in that hotel, and she was just like, well, I said, I'm just going to be downstairs. I'm just going to be down there until they kick me out, because you could be in Quarks and in the whole promenade section of DS9. And they had a whole museum called the History of the Future, where you could see all the props going from TOS all the way to, I think, Enterprise by that point, which was amazing. But I was sitting in Quarks, just chilling and reading a book. And there was a guy who was playing, his story was that he was like Quark's cousin, and he was entertaining an entire bachelorette party by himself for about 3.5 hours. And he was as good as any stand-up comic I've ever heard, except that all of his stories were like how he ripped this guy off and how he used this twist in the rules of acquisition. I mean, this guy was that good. That you would think you were talking to a Ferengi. It was amazing.
Man, that is so cool.
It was really amazing.
Yeah, one day we'll go to Galaxy's Edge and we'll nerd out like crazy because it's awesome.
Hell yeah.
Well, that's all like the tabletop Market Watch stuff I got. Do you want to get into like some juicy leaks?
Yeah, catch me up, man. I heard some stuff happened.
Yeah, so we got some new data sheets and some new pictures of some stuff. One of the things is that the repackaging stuff is different. So we got pictures of like the Invictor warsuit and stuff like that, where the instruction pamphlet that has their rules at the very least has been reprinted differently. It has a lot of symbols instead of words or letters, and kind of makes it seem like they might be making their instructions easier for non-English speakers without having to print a bunch of pages, and because that's kind of a waste. So if like the data sheets can look the same no matter what language you speak, they don't have to have as many pieces of paper in there, which is kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we saw was that the heavy bolter pistol that the Invictor has, its profile changed. It went to heavy 1 and 2 damage instead of heavy 3, 1 damage. So kind of up in the air right now if that's a change that all heavy bolters are going to get, or if that's just the Invictor's pistol heavy bolter, since it is technically different.
Mm-hmm.
Then we saw some leaks for the Fire Strike servo turrets, which I can't exactly. I think it's the one where like it's got the Tech Marine on it. He's like just manning a little turret. And it's 2 models in a unit base. And it can go up to 3, right? And it comes equipped with the twin Las Talon, which is, like 4 shots of a 24-inch range Las cannon. Mm-hmm. And then you can change that to the twin accelerator autocannon, which is 48 heavy 6. No points because it's just the data sheet from, looks like either a codex or something. Mm-hmm. We also got the Invader ATV squad, and everybody's hyped for these. So again, it comes with 2 models, starts at 2, can go up to 3. It moves 14 inches, so it's super fast. Toughness 5 with 8 wounds. And
wow, that's not bad.
Oh yeah, people are super hyped with this. And 2 weapons have different profiles in this. So they have a multi-melta, just regular multi-melta, but its profile is changed to heavy 2, strength 8 -4 for D6. But then it says, when an attack made with this weapon hits a target that is within half range, that attack has a damage characteristic of D6 +2. So the Melta rule is slightly different now. And it also gets 2 shots for being a multi-melta.
Is that going to be a universal change?
We don't know yet. This is just a multi-melta. It's not like a special worded multi-melta. So a lot of people think that the multi-melta is changing to this across the board. And if that's the case, then we are going to have a weird world where like Space Marine multi-meltas are going to say this, but then like if you have like a Lehman Russ with a multi-melta on it, it's going to be the old wording for it and things like that. So there might be like a weird catch-up period between when the codexes come out. And then the Onslaught Gatling Cannon has 8 shots instead of 6 shots. So it got 2 more shots, but it's still, strength 5 -1 for 1 damage.
Are any of these things going to be stratagems?
No, this is just a stat line for these new units. It's part of their stat block from either the codex or the instruction manual. So it looks like a codex.
So if it's the instruction manual, we already kind of know that that might be exclusive to Indominus.
No. Like these aren't in Indominus. These are brand new units.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So, interesting.
Yeah. And the Invader ATV has the biker keyword. So lots and lots of synergies with that.
Interesting that they would change it, but we just got all these other. So maybe because lots of people have multi-meltas.
Yes.
Maybe they will. I mean, I find it interestingly timed though to arbitrarily change all multi-meltas.
Well, it seems like this is just going to happen in the Space Marine book first. And then like, as more books come out, they'll update them accordingly, or they might just like put a FAQ out that says like, if you can take a multi-melta, change its rule to this.
Yep.
Both those are possible. Yeah. Another thing that we've seen, which is interesting, is that like some abilities like psychic powers and litanies, they say chapter core. So like chapter keyword core. And there's been lots of speculation on what core will actually mean. And if that's going to be like things only found in the codex and like Forge World stuff won't be core, so they won't get affected by this stuff. But what we can see from this servo turret and the ATV is they do not have core. They just have chapter keyword. So I'm not sure what chapter core is going to affect or not affect. So we'll still have to wait and see about that.
New keywords always get me excited.
We also got some Necron stuff. You want to hear some Necron stuff?
Sure.
So we got like the thick boy destroyers with their dump truck booties, the locust heavy destroyers, in squad of 2 or squad of 3, 8-inch movement, normal stat line, weapon skill, ballistic skill 3. Their toughness 5, which is pretty nice, and they each have 4 wounds with 3 up armor save. And they come equipped with a Gauss destructor and any number of models can be equipped with 1 Enmitic exterminator instead of the Gauss destructor. So their basic loadout is at 36-inch heavy 1, strength 10, -4 for 3d3 damage.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Okay,
the exterminator is also 36 inches, but this one has heavy 3d3 shots, strength 7, -1 for 1 damage.
Mm.
Man, that's like a fucking volcano cannon.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm conflicted. I think I would take the first weapon because your regular destroyers will do the second weapon. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to make sense because they're like the heavy version, so they got a big boy gun for doing anti-armor stuff. We got the data sheet for the other version of the tripod. It's the Canoptech Doomstalker. Starts off at weapon skill, ballistic skill 4. It can move 10 inches. Strength 6, toughness 6 with 12 wounds and a 3-up save. And it does have a degradation table. Goes down from 12 to 1. Starts off with a Doomsday Blaster and a Twin Gauss Flare. And the Doomsday has 2 different firing modes, as low power and high power. So low power is 24 inches, heavy D6, strength 8, -2 for D3 damage. And the high power is 48, heavy D6, strength 10, -5 for D6. But you can only use that profile if you did not move the turn before.
Oh, okay.
Or I guess move this turn, so in your movement phase. And then a Twin Gauss Flare is just a Gauss Flare.
Yep.
I mean, that low power version is pretty fucking high power, though.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy has a 5-up invul save. Pretty nice.
Oh, hell yeah.
Well, if you get enough of those, you might leave your Doomsday Arcs home. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a spicy-ass unit. It's tough as fuck. It has a lot of wounds, hard to kill. Does it have, like, the living metal rules and shit like that, or...?
Does not look like it has that.
So
it's just...
It's considered a guy, not like a tank.
Yeah, and it's Canoptech, too, so it may not have reanimation protocols.
Does not have that listed on its data sheet.
Yeah, that's what I was keen on.
It has containment field, which is...
might be significantly cheaper than Doomsday Arc.
What is it? What's his ballistic skill, though?
Starts off at 4.
Ooh, don't like it.
But it stays at 4, which is nice.
There's a fucking close combat?
It starts off at 3 attacks with weapon skill 4, and it does not have any close combat weapons. Looks like this guy is supposed to be like kind of a movable turret.
How cheap is he? Is he like 100?
No points. Just the data sheet. He's like 7 power level.
That's not high, so he might be pretty solid price point.
Yeah, I don't think it's a vehicle. Lavarius is asking.
It's a monster.
Yeah.
Monster keyword.
He could be in the mid 100s. Why is like Defiler range? Wish he punched harder, but 12 wounds. Meh. It's all right. I don't think it's going to replace your DDAs.
Yes, people in chat are talking about 130 points. That's what the rumor is.
Mm.
Oh, what? All the points are in chapter approved, so this guy is actually out? Fuck is my chapter approved book?
No.
That's obviously the points are already out. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, people in chat are saying 130. So if he's 130 with his weapons, that's actually pretty respectable, actually. I'm willing to take that BS4 and low punching attacks. That's pretty fucking dope.
Oh, so I was just scrolling back up since they had that shit open. The ATV is 80 points for the Gatling gun option and 85 for the multi-melta. So that's pretty spicy.
That's real good. Fuck yeah, man. That's good. Man, some spicy ass fucking new units with some solid point costs and rules. I've already gotten used to the new world we live in with points. And so anything I see that's a respectable point cost, I'm like, that's an auto take. These ATVs are really good.
Yeah, if you like those fast moving lists, I think it'd be pretty spicy.
Yeah, it's quick, burly. It shoots pretty good gun. Take objectives.
Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah, man. See, I didn't catch any of this stuff today. Didn't know that we had new rules, and now I want those quads. And I want a giant spider monster. We're talking about like this big spider monster guy, right?
Yeah, he's like a tripod.
Oh, like the War of the Worlds looking dude?
Mm-hmm. It's just like the other version of the one that comes in the Indominus box.
Fuck. Mm-hmm. I love that model. That's sick. So here we are again. We talked about some rules. We spit some news. Do we have a Haspil's Corner today, or?
Nah.
That's okay. We did a long AMA on hobby stuff, and
I was super busy. I watched the first episode of Transformers.
Oh, Cybertron.
War for Cybertron. And I was impressed by the voice acting, and especially the guy who did Starscream, because he was really on point. But yeah, I haven't had time to do anything else. I was working the whole weekend. So
yeah, it's funny that I also just watched that to its completion the other day. So did it just drop? Is that why we all watched it?
Yeah, it just came out.
Okay, so I thought it was my decision to go and watch it, but now I realized the internet made that decision for me.
That's right.
And I watched it all. It was all right. Like I wanted to be more hyped than it was, but I have to remember that like Transformers was a long time ago.
Oh yeah, it's also like for kids.
Yeah.
You know, it not that it wasn't dope. It was definitely fucking dope. It was there was all these moments where they were showing us the world. Playing almost like, and me and Haspil are massive fans of this movie, Tron Legacy. Mm-hmm. And there was lots of moments where they were like pumping very Tron Legacy-esque Daft Punk soundtracks through as they're showing us Cybertron and like B-roll, you know, and I'm like, just wanted to know so much more about Cybertron.
Yeah, so that's like my one gripe with this is like, personally, I really hate it when shows or like a movie or something creates a backstory purely to like dangle in front of you as like, yeah, this all happened, which is why we got here now. But it's like way more interesting than whatever is currently going on. It's like I understand that like this might be the first time anybody ever watches Transformers, right? I get that, but with properties like Transformers or I don't know, like Pokemon or like any IP like that's been around for like almost 20 to 30 to 40 years sometimes, like we all know how like what happens when they take the arc off of Cybertron, right? Like and like they end up on Earth, and like we've done this a million times, but then like they're talking about like this like revolution that was started to rise up and like overthrow the corrupt overlords of Cybertron, and how like Optimus and Megatron used to fight together, and like this one guy who was like their teacher and like created the rebellion, almost like their spiritual leader, like their Martin Luther King Jr. character. And then like Megatron killed him. And I'm like, all of that sounds way more interesting than all of these like little stories that we're getting per episode in this. Why would you not just like
this,
I don't care about it.
They touched on like a vicious class war. Like,
yeah,
they talked about
and how like
the freedom of all autonomous beings, like as a hype message that Optimus always talks about. And like, so they're giving us this whole world of like robot life forms in the background with dope Tron Legacy soundtracks. And then it's just close-ups on the Autobot. And it was dope and I was hyped, but I was like, can somebody just make me like go back even further in time. And
yeah, like I think if you're gonna do like a centric show on like Cybertron, right, and it's still gonna end up leading to like some space adventures, and they end up on Earth with Teletran 1, like I would way rather they started it with the status quo of Cybertron, and then we see that journey of like, God, I wish I could remember his name, Alpha Cronus or something. They reference his name a few times, but like, I want to see that war. I want to see that journey where we see like Optimus and Megatron like fighting side by side. You can slowly see Megatron becoming more and more and more radical to not only just like free the Decepticons, but like put them on top and have this like,
whole
genocide.
Free Decepticons thing. I'm like, wait, what? Like, I need so much fucking more.
Yeah, like all that sounds way more interesting to find out about than like the same.
Well, look, we got
the same story that we've seen.
You got to cut them some slack, though. Here's the thing: they're trying to reverse engineer a deep ass storyline and something that simply just wasn't a part of the narrative.
Yeah, they're actually not trying to do any of that.
Yeah,
they're trying to sell toys.
Yeah. Precisely.
Well, yeah, we know it's a commercial.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, so I'm expecting a lot out of something that like they just started throwing, hey, Cybertron.
Damn it. Don't bring your 80s trickle down economics into my cool story about robot people in space.
Well, that's what I only watched one episode, but that's what jumped out at me like almost immediately is I was like, oh, they're releasing Gen 1 Transformers because they're trying to sell toys again. Hasbro's in a fix because, I won't mention it, but let's just say a certain large franchise known for selling a lot of toys ain't selling jack. So,
LT, this one's Haspil tells this story sometimes in the podcast. Maybe we could get him to tell it again.
Oh no, what's this?
LT says, I remember watching the 80s OG Transformers movie in theaters.
Yep.
Oh, man. You got the touch.
That was Haspil's first experience.
I was already too old for Transformers, but I got to take my brother to Transformers. And so I knew who they were because, they came on in between like getting home from school and going to work my job adventures, my retail crap job. So Transformers and G.I. Joe would be on and I'd be like eating like cereal for freaking lunch. And
as one does, that's pretty standard.
80s latchkey kid. So I'd be like, well, I'm having Captain Crunch at 3 p.m. and watching Transformers and G.I. Joe or whatever, and then head to work.
I still do that. Am I wrong?
So I take my brother to see this, and I know who the characters are, and I'm just like, okay, this is cool. And it's like, it's a scene where Starscream's challenging Megatron. They've just taken over an Autobot shuttle and shot up a bunch of Autobots, and Starscream's challenging Megatron. And Megatron answers, no, Starscream will sneak by the Autobot defenses by using their own shuttle or something. And Ironhide is on the floor and he's been shot. And he reaches up and goes, no, when Megatron says this. And Megatron looks down with just complete contempt in his voice and face and says, such heroic nonsense. And then fires his shoulder cannon and
shoots him
kills Ironhide. And the whole theater just went really quiet. And I remember leaning forward in my seat because I was like, you have my attention. I was like, just aced a primary Autobot.
Oh yeah, spoilers for 1980s Transformer movie.
It was great. It was really good.
Yeah, Optimus Prime dies. Who's that like bitch ass that gets him killed? Is his name like Hot Rod? Is that the guy?
Ultra Magnus or
no, Hot Rod.
Oh, Hot Rod got killed.
Yeah, what an ass! I hate Hot Rod.
Hot Rod was dumb. He was a failed marketing. You mean Rodimus Prime? I try to erase that part from my.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff, man.
Fuck out of here! God damn it! Ultra Magnus was. I bought the toy for him after that movie. I was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" Oh wait, it's a toy commercial. I went and bought it.
I remember thinking Galvatron was like really fucking cool.
Oh yeah,
Galvatron. Yeah,
Leonard Nimoy.
Yep.
No. Did he become?
Yeah.
Was it?
That was Leonard Nimoy and Orson Welles
was Unicron.
Yes.
Was Unicron in his final role. That was his last role.
Fucking loved it. See, that's the hype shit. That's the fucking...
I did enjoy the Netflix thing for the one episode I saw. So if you want a nostalgia and revisit some like new stories, then
it's worth watching. I think it's good.
I had it on the background. I was entertained.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good show to paint to. I will put it that way.
Some really great images. Like you get endless screenshot opportunities for new backgrounds for your computer. Mm-hmm. Like just dope shit.
And I remember thinking, I don't remember now because I'm old and I forget everything, but I remember thinking that the people who made it, wasn't it like Rooster Teeth? It was some studio that we know that made it.
I don't think it's Rooster Teeth. I think Rooster Teeth is defunct, but I can pull it up real quick.
Because when it showed up, I was like, oh wow, I didn't think they were doing anything, but who knows?
Or for Cybertron trilogy. Let's see. I almost thought it said Dennis Hopper. The creator's name is Drew Hopper. And then like the guy who plays Megatron, his name is Jason Marnocha. And so again, double take. I thought it was Jason Momoa.
Jason Momoa.
Let's see. Where does it? It is. I don't know if it's going to say.
Some people in chat are saying it is Rooster Teeth.
Is it?
Old Cockbite Studios, Giggle Moose.
Yeah, so good on them for doing something. Because after Genlock, I hadn't heard. I'd lost track of what they were working on.
Yeah, and like I saw on my YouTube feed, there was like a video that was titled something about like like Rooster Teeth is like gone or some such. I don't know. So I was like, oh, I guess I haven't heard anything from them in years. So I was like, oh, I guess they went out of business or something.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah. So that was kind of a Haspil's Corner. So that was fun.
A little bit. Watch Perry Mason. It's really good.
It's a Boomer Corner with Wyatt.
With Wyatt.
Yeah.
Hey, you had a bit of a boomer thing. Weren't you watching like World War II in color, Kenny?
He was.
Like we were talking about half tracks and
he was like I feel a powerful need to buy some World War II
like,
figurines.
Well, you're coming up on 40, so that magic switch hits and all of a sudden you'll just know about World War II.
Over the course of 2 days, I watched the entire 10 or 11 installments of World War II in color, which is not new. It's been around. Pretty much all boomer people already knew about it. And I did not. And felt an insatiable drive and desire to push forward and consume it in 2 sessions, like 2 5-hour sessions. And at the end of it, I didn't know what had just happened. Talked to the guys and they were like, you're 37. This is normal. Yep. Calm. It's okay. And we'll set you up when you're ready for your World War II tanks. It's like that. It's like, did you guys know that this happened and this happened? You're like, yeah, we did. Yes.
Yes. I too have read a history book, watched a documentary or two.
It's like, but guys, did you fucking know that Winston Churchill? They're like, yes, we know. Like, yeah. Oh my God. I was like, so I have a window garden, hummingbird feeder, bird feeder.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
World War II documentaries. God, I did something else that was boomer as fuck the other day. And it was like I don't even know the process of doing it. I was like, well, stop. Fuck. It's just happening. Oh yeah, I thought about turning off Facebook the other day.
Yep. And then one day you're going to be wearing socks and you're going to need to step outside to get something. You're going to throw on your Tevas over your socks. And then that's it. Your conversion will be complete.
God, that's almost happened a few times. I'm actually way closer than that. You know what saved me is like my sandals being downstairs instead of upstairs and just going out in my socks. But if those sandals were there, I know I would put my feet in them. So very fucking close. But
gotta get you some Team Yankee, dude.
Oh,
need some tanks.
I have a mantis update. My pet mantis.
Does he live?
I think he lost the battle.
Oh,
I think
the spiders got him.
Spiders launched a preemptive attack.
Spider style is stronger than mantis style.
It is, but good news, which I talked about yesterday to you on my stream. We were doing a raid. Is I think I have the beginnings of my new squadron. We're gonna dominate the air.
Air Force, yeah.
And so some caterpillars have decided to take over my watercress. The watercress is hilarious because it was just watercress that showed up one day in a produce box that we were like, man, fuck this watercress. And then we threw it in a plant and it grew. And now it's almost dead. And we're like, what the fuck has happened? And we looked in there.
So that's how plants work, Kenny.
Right. I didn't know. And there's a million caterpillars in there. They're destroying it. And one of them, and they're starting to crawl up my window and create chrysalises on the window, like by the dozens. And I looked them up online. And it's either one of two very standard looking green ass caterpillars that you can't fucking identify. So it's either like this white butterfly, which I've never seen one, or it's a moth.
Mm.
And so I'm going to keep that lamp on and we're going to just breed this dope ass moth fucking Air Force. And we are going to take it to the fucking spiders with air superiority.
Yeah, dude, it's like shine your lamp on the target.
That's how we're going to do it. Just like fucking. So, update. Pope the Mantis, that was his name. R.I.P. Will avenge you. His new retaliatory attack from above. Introducing our newest segment on the show, our Hobby AMA. Now, obviously, if you're listening to this podcast in your car on your way to work, you didn't get to participate live, but just know that every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we do this thing live, so you can join up, ask questions, and get them answered. We're going to start right now. I'm going to throw it over to Wyatt.
So we had a couple of questions already come in, but first one was Vallejo model color paints. Like any tips on how to handle those? Because they're pretty beefy paints.
Man, I haven't used model color in a while, but I do remember there was a period in my life where when I discovered those, it was like, fuck all other paints.
Yeah, I think I was there too. Like I really liked them because they're thicker paints. So they're not going to like break on you. They're not going to separate very much. And they're incredibly pigment dense. So you can have just like a little teeny bit out on your palette and thin that down to use it in a multitude of different ways.
Oh, so there you go. Break that down. So palette?
Well, I'm old school. Like I've tried the wet palette thing, but it's just not my bag. I feel more comfortable on a dry palette. And I'm gonna simp for GW for just a minute because I actually do really like their little like use and dispose palette paper things. Mm-hmm. I actually really like those because like I like to have like a really clean palette. I don't want to have to worry about my paint accidentally mixing with other wet paint or like having like a big like a plastic palette that has like a ton of dried paint on it already that you have to clean off from time to time. So I just have like the little paper, and then when it's full, I just put it in the trash, grab another one.
Yeah, like hydrophobic, thick cardstock.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So that's a good point though. Like, so to handling your thicker Vallejo model color paints, you want to have some tools. Like you want to make sure you've thought about it, like Wyatt has. If you're struggling with something that's really thick, usually the answer is thin it down just a little bit.
Yeah, like leads right into another question. Somebody's asking about scale 75 with airbrushes. I like scale 75s. They're very similar to the Vallejo model colors. They're thicker paints that are very pigment dense. So you just need to thin them down more. Like use less paint, more flow improver.
Flow improver, what is that?
It's just like a clear liquid medium that you can get. A bunch of companies make it. Vallejo is the one that most people swear by. Our friend Jason over at Monument Hobbies, who's like a painting guru, makes us look like hobos. He loves Vallejo Flow Improver. It's really, really good.
It was, I would say, in my journey of airbrushing for 10 years now, the discovery of Vallejo Flow Improver instantly changed my life. But I won't lie, like I did it all with water before. So thinning is the most important thing in your journey. But when you're airbrushing, you're still learning how to use the tool. You You're still learning, especially if it's a double action airbrush, like what part of the action delivers the paint, what part of the action delivers the air, and things like flow improver, which it doesn't really say it on the label, do slow the dry time down, but it's kind of like a copy and paste from the thinner label.
I mean, you can say it. So like, it is a drying retardant.
No, it is. But yeah, but what I'm saying is that it actually says the opposite on its labeling and a lot of the stuff they have on their website, because it's a copy and paste from their thinner.
Right.
And so what you're getting is a combination product. You're getting a flow improver and a drying retardant.
Yeah. And that's why I like it, because I think the problem that a lot of people have with their airbrush, they don't realize, is due to the mechanics of how it works. When you use something like water or airbrush thinner, which dries faster than flow improver, what ends up happening is every time you move the needle in and out of the airbrush, there's a little bit of wet liquid paint that gets stuck onto it. And as air flows over the surface of that needle, it will dry paint on top of it, meaning you have to clean it off. You're like scrub it off of there.
Always keep the tip clean.
Exactly. And so when you use flow improver, it stops that from happening, or it slows it down so that you can get all of your airbrushing done with a given color and then clean your airbrush out and switch to another color without having that worry.
Back in the old days, before people knew how to use their airbrushes for miniature painting, it was the opposite feeling. We wanted it to dry faster because we didn't know what we were doing, and we were watching like thin paint build up and drain off of our models. So we were using like alcohol and shit like that. And as we've kind of understood how to use airbrushes, you want the actual opposite to occur, because things drying too fast leads to clogging. Scale 75 specifically, and I'll say one last thing on Scale 75. One of the things that you find most desirable about that paint company is the heavily matted formula. And it's in the medium side of the ratio, which is where you're getting that coverage and that stick from. So that's why it feels so easy to use. But that does lead to other issues when paintbrushing, like if you start transitioning into wet blending techniques and stuff like that. Like too much matte medium makes that harder to do.
Yes.
So we had a question from Dieter. He says he uses stencils for airbrushing. Should he just get better at freehanding, or accept that stencils don't always come out perfect? You just have to accept that stencils don't always come out perfect. You can do but there's some really easy tricks for like airbrushing patterns and without stencils. And one of the tricks that I really like, and you'd be absolutely surprised at the result, is, you know, when you get like some fruit at the market, like especially those little cuties, mandarin oranges, they come in this netting, right? Save that netting. Then when you want to do something like you prime your rhino black, right? Put that netting over the rhino and tighten it up so there's no space in between the netting and the rhino. Then airbrush your primary color onto that. And when you remove that netting, you will be shocked at what happens. If you do multiple different, you can move the netting, move it around, everything like that. You'll be stunned. You can do some camouflage patterns that are just absolutely insane and look really, really dope. And it'll take you 5 minutes to do. It's really simple to do.
I think having some freehand tech in your arsenal, definitely a good thing. I have a couple of videos about how to do some freehand stuff, like some easy tricks, because most of us are used to writing, which is basically freehanding, right? Like we write with pens and pencils. So you're used to holding that a very specific way. We have that muscle memory that's built from children. And usually that will carry over into how you hold a brush and how you want to paint with it. So one of the things you can do is practice not holding the brush that way. And one thing that I've talked about a number of times on my live stream is you want to practice holding the brush at as close to a 90-degree angle to the surface that you're painting on, so that you can learn to utilize the flexibility of the brush to draw shapes, because that is one of the biggest things you'll need to use for freehanding stuff. And start with things very small, like letters and numbers. Those are just little lines put together to create shapes that are letters and numbers. And you can do very simple shapes. And then from there, you can get into like, all right, I'm going to draw like this shape and then this shape, and then I'm going to paint it in, and then start doing like normal value painting on top of that to create pictures and things like that on your models?
That's a fact. Good. Yeah, because in my experience, part of getting good at stencils is tightening it up. My one trick that I've learned over the years, which works on simple stuff, like take stripes, caution stripes, or like chevrons, for example. A lot of times it's black and yellow. So I find that this trick of like, you tape off the surface area, and let's say it's already black and you're going to airbrush the yellow stripes in, or it's already yellow and you're going to airbrush the black stripes in. One of the tricks I have learned over the years is once you lay that tape down and you're getting ready to airbrush those black stripes in over your yellow or the reverse, the first thing you want to do is actually airbrush the background color again. So if it's already black, I airbrush black first again through my stencil so that any gaps between the tape and the surface get kind of clogged up with the same exact color that's already there. Then by the time that dries, I've already switched back out to my yellow and I start doing my stripes now again. And that shield exists, and that sometimes is enough to keep any of the fluffy, grainy yellow from penetrating because that black shield is there against the already black background. So that's one of my little tricks. It doesn't work for every situation.
So what type / brand of airbrush do you go to?
Well, for what, like 10 years or 7 years, I've preached the Wyatt Eclipse, which is a workhorse airbrush. At the end of the day, there's several equivalent brushes that exist in the same price range that do the same kind of workhorse duties, like the Patriot 105. Recently, I switched to Mr. Hobby Krios, the Procon, as another Wyatt Eclipse 105 equivalent workhorse brush for an even better deal and with extra features. So really, if you're spending like $150 range on your airbrush, it's probably fine as long as it's not smaller than 0.3 or bigger than, in my experience, 0.35. That's kind of the nozzle range I live in.
Mm-hmm. I'm a Badger guy. I use all Badger airbrushes. If I was to say, if you needed an airbrush like you could only afford one airbrush to do everything, I recommend the Badger Chrome, spelled with a K. It's really good. I use the Sotar 2020 for most of my projects, but it's a detail-oriented airbrush, so it can do that really cool stuff. But the drawback is that the hopper on there is really small. So if I'm doing a lot, like if I need to base coat a bunch of, like a whole squad, I'm going to have to fill it up a couple of times. So on big projects, what I'll do is I'll bring out my Chrome, which has a nice big cup on it, do that first step, and then I'll switch back to the Sotar to do like the smaller steps where I won't have to refill my airbrush. But I have two and I do way more painting than the average person. So that works for me. But if you only want one, I'd go with the Badger Chrome.
And what I would caution people against, do not buy like a $40 airbrush. You know what I mean? Like, don't go unless it's on sale. Like if it's $120 airbrush for $40, by all means buy it, right? But if the MSRP of that thing is $30 or $40 and comes with a little can of propellant, don't even waste your money. You're not going to get the results that you want on that. Even if it's like my first airbrush or whatever, just don't get it. Just save your money. Get a Badger, get an Iwata. There's some other ones out there, but those are the two workhorse where the prices are not going to break the bank. I also use I use that Sotar 2020. I have an Iwata Eclipse. I have that other Iwata that the turn one cheaper. Pistol grip with a Neo or the the Neo. It was the Neo, and then I have the Grex pistol grip. But importantly, that Grex is a fine airbrush. It's incredible, but it's like $300 or something. I did not buy that. I won one. That's why I use it. If it had come out of my pocket, I don't think I would have bought it. Just because it is expensive. But you'll go to Walmart or wherever, and you'll see like an airbrush for $30. Don't even, like a tester's thing. Don't even waste your money. Mm-mm. Don't get that.
I'm gonna echo that sentiment. I've heard people ask me that same question before, and the way that I think about tools, just in general, is I want something that'll last for an exceptionally long period of time. If I'm buying a wrench set or a drill or something like that. I want a nice one. It's going to last a while. If I buy a gun, I want that gun to outlive me, you know? And I would also say that there's sort of this difference in opinion in the community of airbrushes. Some people will say, buy a shitty one because you're going to fuck it up, and then buy a good one. And I say that that's completely wrong, because one thing that we do as people who teach painting is try to break people of really bad habits they've formed. And that sentiment on airbrushing is a really bad habit. So I say, save up some money, get a good one, a really high quality tool. It's going to last you for the rest of your life, basically, and learn to take care of it from the start.
It's a technical trade. Like, you didn't get hired by like, you know, a shop to go in with shit tools. Like, always have the right tools for the job, and the right tools have a certain price associated with them. Mm-hmm. Just start your journey with the correct tools.
Because if you go into it and you're like, I'm just going to mess this thing up, you're going to form bad habits. And the number of people that have quit airbrushing that I've seen has been huge because of that mentality. Because like, they bought a cheapo airbrush that's not engineered very well. They don't learn how to take care of it. They constantly clogs. They can't do what they want to do with it, and they quit because it's too hard and it constantly messes up. Whereas the people who listen to what I tell them and they get into an airbrush and they learn how to do all of the things correctly the first time, like, they're like, this is a game changer. This is awesome. I want to do that.
That's a fact. There's another one in here.
Before we ask the question, we should shout out Beard Fist, the golden one, who contributed a significant amount of money on YouTube.
Yeah, he told Rob to get a better router.
Yeah, to get a better router. So I wanted to shout him out there.
Oh, hell yeah. Rob will get a better router. 100%. Shout out. Thank you so much for the support, brother. Essex boys, airbrush pressure, is it mostly linked to thickness, viscosity of the paint? The PSI of your airbrush, like, consider this. Airbrushes are pretty old tech. They're not new. And they vastly were created with the intent of putting like mostly graphic inks through them and not acrylics, the thick ass acrylics. So you need you need power. So everything we're doing is to like get the paint thinner to a state where it's kind of emulating the initial design of the airbrush. Some are better than others. That's why my initial statement of like, I don't really go below 0.3 very often. That's the gauge. That's the girth of the hole. Because I want a little bit more girth there so I can operate lower PSIs. Maybe I don't always have to thin my paint as much. But at the end of the day, you're thinning your paints. Your PSI is important, but you need to be able to go up and down if you want with your PSI. Personally, I train myself at 40 PSI. Then now I live in the 20s. And I never really go below that or above that.
What I do is I have an inline dial that's also, it doubles as a quick disconnect. So anybody who's worked with pneumatic tools knows what that is. And it actually doesn't have any numbers on it. It just has like an open and closed valve that screws down or open. And my compressor is just set at like 25. It never changes. And then when I'm doing things like different techniques with like either thinner paint for more transparent coats or thicker paint for more vibrant, opaque coats, or I'm working closer into the model to get that like really laser edge detail in there, I just dial that thing open or closed. And when you stop thinking about like the PSI as like something that has to be there, like as part of the recipe, like kind of echoing back to when we were talking about like cookbook recipe type painting things that can lead people to failure. I think that's another one that does that. Like if you constantly focus on that as something that you have to have in order to do something, it's going to limit you. Whereas if you have one of those dials and you just learn how to paint using the airbrush based on what you need to do at any given moment, it's going to make you a better painter down the road. Let's see. What faction gives the most flexibility of color choice and techniques for painters?
I mean,
I'm going to say Space Marines.
I mean, yeah, there's so much narrative and rules. Like you can't go wrong with Space Marines because it's all good. There's power everywhere. So you can kind of know that you're making good choices on the table, but also there's like endless chapters and lore you can draw upon do accounts as. So probably Space Marines. Yeah, I agree with you.
John Falhaber had a question, and he kind of got lost when we were.
He's asking about lists and stuff. I don't know. Do you guys want to field any like list type stuff, or are we just going to stick to hobby?
I can't answer his question because I don't know enough about Tau.
Throw it in. We'll do a quick little.
Yeah, he was like, "How do you play Tau without Riptides?"
And Taunar, which I don't even know what
that hasn't been a thing since like 7th edition.
I mean, currently, right now in 9th edition, the name of the game is get to objectives and stay alive. Get board control through that concept. And so I think that you can, if you just think about that when you make your Tau list, there's lots of units in the Tau Codex that meet that checkbox, that check that box. You know, you have great transports, burly flying things. You have tons of little opportunities to move quick, hide somewhere, and even be semi-resilient. So I think of Devilfish, that they don't suck. You know, I think of some of your other vehicles. They don't suck. They have fly keyword and they have lots of bullets. But Riptides are really good, so I don't know why you would not have Riptides.
Jumping back towards like painting, one thing, when I got into airbrushing and painting, it wasn't through miniatures work. It was actually on movie props, replica movie prop stuff. So with movie props and miniature movie set type things, because we're trying to do like Star Wars fan films on the cheap. And so what we would do is film in front of a blue screen, and instead of relying on CG backgrounds, just paint a miniature to a ridiculous level and film in front of that, which is exactly how they made The Lord of the Rings. But granted, that's on a different scale. You know what I mean? So one of the things that you want to learn to do is tell a story when you're painting. If you're painting just one guy or painting an entire army, if you can tell a story about why this guy's kneecap is chipped or why this tank has a spot of rust on it, which honestly, I know that we go crazy with like the rust and the weathering and stuff. The weathering is fine, but like from a fluff standpoint, unless you're doing like chaos or something, there wouldn't be any rust on these vehicles because they're like the Mechanicum worships them, right? So if you had rust on a vehicle, it would be you're disrespecting the machine spirit and stuff. But if you look at my Space Wolves, plenty of rust on my Rhinos because it looks cool. Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, just tell a story when you're painting on why there's like, you know, runoff here, or why there's an oil thing here, or why there's a chip there or something. You don't need to tell people that. You just need to know it. And it gives your army character.
Let's see, recommendation for airbrush paints. I know what Kenny's going to say before he says it. All paints are airbrush paints.
Correct, sir.
Flow Correct. Improver, which we talked about before, makes all paints airbrush paints.
Like before I was making money at this for a living when it was just water.
Yeah.
Like I can airbrush for water just as easily as Flow Improver 90% of the time. Like all paints are airbrush paints.
I will shout out one paint though, because somebody had already shouted it out, and it used to be called German Gray by Vallejo Air.
Yes,
that's a great color.
I think they renamed it to Anthracite Gray. It is as black as you can get without it being black, which means that your washes will still work, your weathering will still work, it will still show up. I've done my entire Death Watch that way. It looks phenomenal.
Dark neutral gray from Pro Acryl is very similar. I kind of use it as a stand-in.
I use that when I don't know what to do. I paint a dark neutral gray from Pro.
Yeah,
that's like my go-to. It's like I don't know. I'll just paint it this, see what happens. I can love that color as well.
See, Grex airbrushes. Any opinion? They're all right.
Yeah, I like
one of my first ones was a Grex. Yeah,
I really like mine. I have the pistol grip one. I really want to get one of their compressors. Their stuff is expensive.
They're over engineered. That's like
my airbrush hose, which I have a threaded hose, which is really good. And this thing is like over a decade old, still kicking. And my quick disconnect is made by Grex, and it's still. I mean, this also like I got both of these with my first airbrush over a decade ago, and they're still fine.
Yeah, they make good product. It's a really good product.
I will also say something I kind of forgot is like, depending on where our listeners are from, if you're in the States or North America, buying something like Grex or Badger is usually a better bet, because if you lose a part, if a part breaks, if you need to utilize your warranty, it's going to be a lot easier because those are North American brands. Whereas if you have Iwata or MSI, GSI, like the Krios, or like a Harder Steenbeck or a Posh or something like that, those are either European or Asian brands. And so you're going to have to deal with that. But if you're in Europe, it might be easier to get those than it is to get American products. So I would just say, like, get a tool that's really high quality, learn to take care of it, and whatever is easiest for you to obtain and maintain.
There's a question in here. I hate metallic paints. This is from Aaron. I hate metallic paints, how they're very transparent. How do I fix that? Like, all paints are just a combination of a pigment and a medium. Most of the time what is occurring is it's one formula applied to their entire range, not like individual needs of each pigment. And so you will always find paints in a line that don't have the coverage that you want, and you're going to get frustrated because another paint in the same line has more coverage. When you find a paint that doesn't have as much coverage as you like, it usually just means a couple more coats. No?
See, should you use a compressor with a tank? Yes. I'm not even going to field the second half of that question.
And then Giggle Moosin has another easy one. Gravity fed or siphon. If you're doing t-shirts, siphon's great. If you're doing miniatures, it needs to be gravity fed.
Yeah. Almost all airbrushes that people use for like scale modeling and miniature painting and stuff like that are gravity fed.
Yeah. So if you're doing a real size car or motorcycle helmets or something like that, siphon will work. But for the scale we're working at, you don't want to mess with siphon.
It's a fucking headache. I'll tell you. So having said that, then what you need to understand about your gravity fed airbrush, if you're using a double action gravity fed airbrush, there's a couple things to consider. And one of them that a lot of people don't consider is that its primary access to its paint is gravity, meaning it's above the chamber and gravity is pushing it down, forcing it up against where the needle exits the nozzle and penetrates the cap. And when you slide the trigger back, you're revealing more of that hole by pulling back a tapered needle. And when you're pressing the trigger, you're letting air escape. So it still does require gravity to facilitate that. So always be cognizant of like how deep you're going, how steep you're going with the airbrush. A lot of people, they're coming in straight down and spraying. A lot of people don't put that much paint in their pot, because they're trying to conserve paint. You will have these moments where you're very frustrated because your paint's not doing what it's supposed to do. And you're like, it was just doing it 2 fucking seconds ago. Why the fuck is it not doing it right now? It's very common. A lot of times it just has to do with gravity. That you have fucked gravity by aiming too steeply. And now the paint is trying to pull up toward the front of the hopper. It is not being driven down into the chamber. So just remember that when using a gravity airbrush, it's different than a siphon airbrush.
Mm-hmm. Here's one Mike and I can talk on. Because we're pseudo boomers that like scale modeling tech. What's your go-to chipping technique? I actually have a video that goes really in depth with chipping and how to make it actually look good. And it involves sponge chipping. So you've probably heard of sponge chipping before. I have used chipping medium and chipping fluid in the past, but I think that it's too time intensive and too hard to control the overall, the final look of what you're doing. Whereas if you do random sponge chipping and then hand paint on top of that to get all those little details in, it ends up looking way better. And that is something you'll see echoed with other people who make tutorial videos and do chipping, which is much more prevalent in the scale modeling side of things, where they'll tell you like, you can do this, but it might seem easier, but it's actually not. Mm-hmm. It's a lot harder to deal with. It's way more of a headache and it takes up way more time than just using a little piece of sponge and some tweezers to pad that sponge around where you want to do your paint chips. And the way that I like to do it is like, if I'm doing like line troopers type stuff where I have to paint like 50 of them, like I'll just do, a dark color and then a light color. and that's it. But then when I do like vehicles and characters and like set piece type models, I'm going to do the full on thing where I do my sponge chipping and then I connect all those little dots with lines and scratches and scrapes by hand. And then I'll do all of my subsequent colors by hand to give it that true like 3-dimensional feel of the paint chipping off of the surface of whatever it's painted on.
And then if you want to do, I'm almost 90% of the time do sponge chipping the way Wyatt was just describing it on certain things, like very specifically the front of like dozer blades on my like Space Wolf rhinos and stuff. I wanted a different look than the sponge chipping. I wanted it to be more like the paint was actually lifting up, and I wanted to leave that paint on there so that you could just see that it gave it depth. And the easy way to do that was you paint your whatever bottom color. In my case, it was silver. It was a bright silver. And then I went ahead and clear coated that, right? By hand. I didn't airbrush that. I clear coated it with Ard Coat. And then you take hairspray and you put hairspray over it, right? Let that dry completely. Then paint your dozer blade or whatever you want exactly the way you would paint it. Then you go back with a Q-tip and get it wet with warm water. The Q-tip will dissolve the hairspray, and that will pull off that paint that from that clear coat so that you will see the silver underneath. And that gives you a 3D kind of effect. It's not something it takes a long time. Oh yeah. Somebody's just mentioning salt works as well, but it takes a long time. Sponge chipping will get you probably like 95% of the way there, with a little finishing by hand on top. You'll probably can get it, unless you're going for a very specific effect.
Right. Yeah. So like the salt, chipping fluid, hairspray, chipping fluid works very similarly to hairspray. Like, it's a very aggressive technique. It gets a very specific look where you're talking about paint actually like lifted up and peeling off of a surface. But it's very, very time intensive because of the dry times, and it can be a real headache. It can be like a real bear to deal with.
And very honestly, I would not do that on 40K models because you play with them.
Yeah, it's
if you're doing a diorama or something that you're not going to touch, that's when you want to do something like that.
Right.
But you're playing with these models. You're going to touch them. So don't just do the sponge chipping.
Kenny, how do you avoid hobby burnout?
It's always I answer this the same way every fucking time, man. Get yourself an audible.com subscription. They're not sponsors of the show.
Boom.
Haspil was like the original I think he was the first subscriber to Audible back in the day.
I was the second. Dave Tish and I told me about it. Yep. And I went, wait, what?
And I'm in. When I started my business in 2010, you said, get fucking Audible. And I did. And that has been the number one way I stay committed, because I don't listen to audiobooks when I'm driving places. I don't listen to audiobooks at the gym. I only listen to audiobooks when I'm painting. And over a period of time, you positively enforce the experience of painting with the stories you love. And I listen to about 60, 70 books a year, and I paint every fucking day, and I never feel like it's a chore.
And if you're not into listening to fiction, although if you're playing 40K, you're into listening to fiction. But if you're not into that, they have the great courses on there. These are some of the best college courses in the world.
Oh yeah. I've heard about the Great Courses Plus and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. They're on there. They're on Audible. So you can just like sit there and listen to it and everything. And shameless plug, if you're brand new to Audible, you get a free audiobook, and you can get Graveyard Shift, which is
it's such a good audiobook. I didn't even read the book. I mean, Mike knows this. I was like, I don't read words on pages like peasants. I have people read them to me.
Like a goddamn king.
Yes. So I definitely highly recommend Graveyard Shift audiobook.
And what's dope is, like, real talk, like on a side note of the Audible quest, is you can start challenging yourselves. Like, you get into some series that you really like that are like fantasy driven or sci-fi driven, because we're all fucking fantasy sci-fi nerds. Basically what I used to do is every time you finish a series, because it happens pretty quick when you're hobbying every day, is you have to break up each series with a self-help book of some type.
Yeah.
And I did that for years. So if I had never discovered Audible in order to increase my hobby productivity, I would have never read some incredible books that have actually been applied directly to my business and my way of life that have made me better.
Yep. I was the same way. I was like, I don't need that shit. That's for like house moms and hippies. And then Kenny was like, no, you really need to like get on this. And I do the same thing. And it's like, it really will change your life.
Yeah. And I don't do the self-help stuff often, but I alternate between a nonfiction book and a fiction book. Mm-hmm. And I force myself to do that.
Best metallic airbrush paint. Again, all paints are airbrush paints with foam improver. But personally, I like Pro Acryl stuff. I like Scale 75 metallics. They're really nice. They have a wider color variety of metallic paints than Pro Acryl right now. So, you might listen to this at a later date, and then now Pro Acryl is caught up. Another thing, because like I like paints from other brands that will focus on scale modeling, which you can still use for miniatures. So things like Allclad, they make really good metallic paints.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Hobby makes really good metallic color paints. I just got into these extreme metals from AK Interactive, and those are super dope. I just made a video with Necron Overlord where I use those extreme metals, and they are super spicy. So check those out.
Let me circle back to Audible. A couple questions. If I can help one person improve their life. Then he says, do you buy every book on Audible after the free month? It's a subscription model. So you sign up for the subscription tier you want. It is a credit-based subscription model. So they give you a credit. A credit equals a book purchase. So what I do is I spend my credits on huge books that are like 60 hours that are normally like $50. So I get the best value out of my credit. And then they will extend to you membership deals where you can buy 3 credits for the price of 2. And I usually about every other month scoop that up. And if I see any title that's like a lot of self-help books are really short, right? And I see the MSRP is like $11. That's cheaper than a credit. And then you get a discount for being a member. I just buy that. So like you can save a shitload of money. You just work the system that they've put in place for you to work to give them money.
Here's a good one. General advice for making a display board. I think you have a video on this, Kenny.
I do. It's a quick and dirty, secretly easy. Just go to my YouTube channel and literally hit the little search on my channel, display board, and we'll get a rags to riches 15 minutes. Fucking here we go. Yeah. But if you want to see a really solid video making display boards, check out Haspil shit.
Yeah, it's not hard to make, but you can do really good stuff. And then go to Michael's and they sell those metal frames that you can like put together yourself. And that's gold. Do that and a piece of NBF as your base, build up from there.
See, loose pigment. So
I'll try to find the link to.
I assume this guy is talking about like dry pigments. I like Vallejo pigments, but yeah, I use them all the time. If you ever watch any of my content, you'll very quickly realize that I like to mix hyper real contrast colors with scale modeling realistic techniques to get a really wild sci-fi look to my models. And I use them all the time. I really like dry pigments. They're super dope.
That's an interesting talking point because what that reminds me of is contrast. Like contrast is the name of the fucking game, guys. So whatever technique you're using to put paint on the models, what you're trying to do is generate contrast. And for us, because models are tiny as fuck and real life environmental light doesn't do shit except make them impossible to look at or too bright and so you're still impossible to look at, you're doing everything you can to sort of cheat and create that environmental light, which generates contrast, which for the purpose of the models is light and dark. So what you're trying to do is make things really bright, really dark, and that generates contrast. But contrast extends to what colors you use when you start thinking of like color wheels and shit. But what Wyatt does is one of my favorite types of contrast, which is a Roger Rabbit character in a live action movie. And that's like meta contrast when you have like this cartoonish fucking hyper over the top, like graphically illustrated dude standing on a fucking green screen of real life. Like, I love that.
The way I think about it is like, it's as if like you took somebody who draws comics for a living and then somebody who does Photoshop for a living, and you took that comic book character and did a bunch of like hyper realistic Photoshop filters and textures on top of it. So you'll see a lot of my stuff that kind of looks like that.
Sorry.
Yeah, he had a follow up about the loose pigment. No fixer or medium application. How does that play and work over the time? So I don't really do a lot of like built up pigments that I use fixer for. I just have a really soft brush, and I dust it onto the model in any given area. And then once I'm done, you have to seal it in there with a varnish or it will rub off when you touch it with your fingers. So like varnishing your models is a requirement when using a lot of those scale modeling products, because they will dry to a very specific finish that may look really weird, or it won't fully dry or cure the way that acrylic paint will, because it's meant to be like on a diorama that you never touch or something like that. So varnishing your models is a must.
Also, when you're using those weathering pigments, to give yourself a little bit more control, mix them with rubbing alcohol, like a very high, like 90% rubbing alcohol or whatever, because that will evaporate so fast, but it will give you the control to paint. Like if you need to paint that streak, or whatever, or to control where you want that buildup of the weathering powder to go. When you mix it with the alcohol, it does that. And then the alcohol evaporates like immediately. So it just works for that. And I wanted to just say, like, for folks who are looking for the display board tutorial, just type in easy steps to make a great looking display board and then Haspil, and my website comes up. So
Quinn,
that's how I had to find it.
That's literally how I find all your stuff. K.R. Quinn, the oldest man on the internet, he says, I paint too slow and detailed. Best to save that for the armies I love in speed paint. House armies? ? I'm thinking yes, but it's hard to actually do. Tips. Bro, are you softballing me something? You're on my shit all the time, man. Airbrush that shit up. Hit it with a controlled wash, which generates dark contrast because it settles opaque in the crevices, so darkens dark lines. And then hit it with some quick edge highlights, but selectively. Not like GW Tron models. Just a sharp angles on stuff. I'm talking, literally, if you're talking Space Marines, you're talking 1-2 on this shoulder pad, 3-4 on this shoulder pad, top of the chest 5, fucking Mohawk 6-7. Literally 7 lines per model. And count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Don't even fucking worry about the tapering of the lines. Move on. Like, cut corners. Yeah. Make it look like you didn't cut corners.
And we have a question from Talon. Here, he's like, can flow improver be swapped in place of thinner to use Vallejo varnishes through the airbrush?
Yes.
And
that's actually my preferred method. I only use thinner when applying varnishes and primers. That's the only time I actually use thinner.
Right, but that's not what he was asking. He was asking if you could use flow improver in the place of thinner, and I don't think you can.
You can, but it's not as good.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not. I would not recommend. I just use water instead.
Yeah, because when I hear varnishes, I'm thinking thinner. Same with oil paints, right? You can't use, like, people like using oils for weathering and stuff like that. But now you're getting into, you need actual like thinner, not flow improver, which is for acrylics.
Right. Yeah. And so technically, a varnish is basically unpigmented acrylic medium. Right. For most varnishes you have access to that you're going to run through your airbrush. So flow improver will work, but all of its best properties are bad for varnish. They're not what you want.
And I should clarify, I was misunderstanding the question too. I was substituting varnishes for enamels in my head, which is why I was like, you definitely don't want to do that for enamels. You will jack up your paint.
Good clarification. Don't do that.
Yeah. So I apologize for confusing varnishes with enamels in my head. I was just answering a different question.
So Tactica asked if I had any models close by. So for anybody listening to this, can't see it live, but if you go to the Jack Club's Facebook page, you can see lots of pictures of my models there, and obviously my YouTube channel. But do you use rattle can varnish or through an airbrush? I prefer airbrushing everything because of the climate that I live in, and also like I don't have like a garage or anything right now because I live in an apartment. So putting a bunch of guys in a box and then like carrying them outside is like not really something that I'm going to do. And obviously I can't risk getting like spray paint on any part of my apartment patio. So I do all airbrushing. And if you're like me, I live in Texas, so it can be very hot. It can be very humid.
Humid will kill you.
Yeah, for most of the year. So like I straight up, like I think that all rattle can stuff is trash. I never use it anymore. That's my opinion. You can still use it. It's
spicy.
It's my
I disagree. I disagree.
I know. It's my opinion. And then somebody else also asked about varnishes, and I used to use Vallejo varnishes through the airbrush, but I discovered another product, which is by Ammo by MIG. And it's called Lucky Varnish. And they have 3 different types. They have a gloss, a satin, and an ultra matte. And I absolutely love these. You do not need thinner. You do not need flow improver. They are airbrush ready. You just drop them right in there and start spraying. They set quicker than the Vallejo versions. The gloss takes about 10 minutes, whereas the Vallejo can take up to a half hour or more. And the ultra matte is like ready to paint on top of like seconds after you're done airbrushing. So Lucky Varnish from Ammo by MIG is my go-to.
Yeah. And I actually use rattle can varnishes quite a bit. And I, depending on the army that I'm using, if it's Space Marines, if it's Astartes at all, this is my technique. So I will do my entire mini when I'm ready to go ahead and varnish it. I use a gloss varnish, and it's like Krylon. It's not a very good one. It's whatever I pick up at Home Depot or Lowe's. It's just a gloss varnish. Once that is completely dry, I go back over it with this little can. It's a little blue can of Testors. Testors matte varnish is what it is. And I go over that, and that just ensures that the miniatures will never get chipped up, nothing. They're really well protected. I do not do my Necrons that way because they're spindly. So putting the gloss on there, kind of a waste of time. But on like Space Marines, especially, a lot of my models are pewter still. And that's just the way I did them from way back when. Only I was using actually the GW matte varnish that sometimes turned white on you. And I have a horror story about, because you actually
do not buy varnishes from Games Workshop. Don't do it. If your local Games Workshop manager tells you they're a good product, he's straight up lying. Don't do
it. But this is a horror story in a different way. So this was the night before a tournament. If you're not still painting the night before a tournament, are you even gaming, bro? So I was painting Sisters of Battle, and I had this really cool paint job based on Incubi Darkness. And so I finished this exorcist that I need for the next day, and it's glorious. And it's like one of the best exorcists I've ever painted. And I walk out to put the varnish on, right? And I spray it, and it was Incubi Darkness.
Oh.
And I was like,
the wrong can.
Yeah. So,
oh no.
So pro tip, do not, if you're going to use rattle can varnishes, make sure all your other paints, your rattle can paints, are put away.
I'm probably the only guy on earth who's done the exact opposite of that, which is trying to prime these models I just built for a commission kind of late, just a porch light outside. And I grab my GW rattle can varnish, and I'm out there trying to spray these motherfuckers black, and I keep shaking the motherfucker, and I'm just going, I'm like, I think something's happening because it's kind of dark out there. And after a bunch of minutes over this huge fucking bunch of metal Plague Marines, I realized I just like put 1 billion millimeters of fucking varnish on them. Right over the metal. I'm just like, oh, come on, man. I was like, it'll probably be okay. Let it dry. Look at them in the morning. I'm like, it's not okay. These are fucking. So I'm the only guy on earth who's probably had a like simple green strip, just a bunch of not painted models.
So here's a question about Steinolres. He's having trouble with it. Do you guys thin it or no? Personally, I use Steinolres for most of my projects, and I've never had a trouble with it. You do have to shake it really good because it will separate. But on principle, I do not thin down primers because it kind of defeats the purpose of the paint at that point. But I have heard other people have trouble with Steinolres, especially if you live in a colder area. it can freeze. Like that paint can freeze over during the shipping process. But yeah, I don't thin primer. If you want to avoid having to do any of that, there's a brand called Alclad, ALCLAD. It is not an acrylic paint. It is a lacquer paint, but it is like the best model or miniature primer that you can put through an airbrush out there. Alclad paints have been around for a very long time. They're extremely, extremely good paints. In fact, like back in the day, the original Industrial Light and Magic, when they built all the models for Star Wars and a bunch of the other movies they worked on, they used Alclad paints to paint those models. So like they are really good paints. But like I said, they are lacquers. They do have some hazardous fumes, so you'll need to wear a mask. Probably have some kind of vent if you're airbrushing, but you don't have to worry about any of that stuff with them.
Circle back to the dull coat question. Unless some people were asking more clarification on Tester's dull coat is the official name.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a matte, but one of the reasons it's good is because it's more of like a semi-satin. So it's not like that full-on matte effect that some people really do like. A lot of times I'm just done this incredible paint job and everything looks exactly how I want it to be. And so slightly closer to the satin world will keep those colors looking exactly the way you put them on the model versus harder into the matte world. So I paint pretty much in real time how I want it to look. And so for me personally, I found that ultra mattes were not what I wanted, but I also use Tester's dull coat. Love that. But I also use ultra matte. Sometimes I'm using ultra matte on my Light Marines. So that's a pretty good hobby segment. So, we don't have Rob here. Fielded some AMAs. We'll see how that does on the back end on our statistics if people actually join AMA. Wyatt, I think we did it.
Haspil, take us out of here.
We wouldn't want to wake up your mother, would we? Then I'd have to kill her too. Do you realize how much trouble you've caused me, spying on me, almost disturbing my sleep this afternoon, telling policemen about me? You deserve to die. Of course, I could give you something I don't have, a choice. Forget about me, Charlie. Forget about me, and I'll forget about you. What do you say?